election day, so what you do is.
So how do you know we're balanced?
Yeah. Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting and public hearing for February 22nd, 2016. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And take the roll. Mr. Batanti?
Here.
Mr. Brado?
Here.
Mr. Caprell?
Here.
Mr. Tominello?
Here.
Mr. York is asked to be excused. Mr. Witt here. Mr. Verkest is asked to be excused. First order of business would be to appoint an acting chairperson for the regular board meeting due to Mr. Verkest's excused absence. Yeah.
I make a motion to nominate Mr. Witt to fill that position for this evening's meeting.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Tominello, supported by Mr. Brado, to appoint myself as acting chairperson for the regular board meeting of February 22nd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have the approval of the consent agenda, including the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of February 8th, 2016, and the approval of the bills in the amount of $1,115,302.12.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda with bills at $1,115,302.12.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Tominello, supported by Mr. Batanti, to approve the consent agenda as presented with the bills in the amount of $1,115,302.12. Any comment and hear anything before the meeting? So, seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the regular agenda. I didn't hear of any changes necessary, so I'll be looking for a motion to approve the regular agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Mr. Caprell, seconded by Mr. Batanti, to approve the regular agenda as presented. Is there any comments? Seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is announcements. First off, there will be an election on March 8th. Residents will be asked to vote on the presidential primary, a non-homestead millage renewal for L'Anse Creuse Public Schools, and a Harrison Township millage question for public safety. The ballot information is available on the township website. The clerk's office is still accepting applications for absentee voters. If you'd like to request an absentee ballot because you'll be absent, you expect to be absent from the community, or you're over 60, you can still come in and do that. And the clerk's office will be open Saturday, March 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the purposes of processing absentee voter applications. So for any further information about the election, you can contact the clerk's office at 466-1404. The Harrison Township Public Library has multiple events coming. Reading ABCs will be held Tuesday, February 23rd from 10:30 to 11 a.m. This event is geared towards preschool age children and does not require pre-registration. Tales with Tales will be held Tuesday, February 23rd from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Elementary and middle school children will have an opportunity to read with a certified therapy dog. For that event, pre-registration is required. They also have Rocking Readers, which will be held Saturday, February 27th at 11:30 a.m. You can join the library for a dinosaur story and craft. For more information on any library events, you can contact 586-329-1261 or visit the township website for this event or any other township events. Is there any other announcements?
Mr. Witt, just want to apologize to the board and residents for being late tonight.
No problem. Hearing no other announcements, we will move on to item B, which is the Community Development Block Grant allocation. Tonight, the purpose of tonight is to hold a public hearing to obtain the views of citizens concerning Community Development Block Grant and housing needs as required by Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. Harrison Township will be receiving, it says in the agenda item, $270,000. That was last year's allocation. We'll be receiving $73,070 is the estimated amount from the Community Development Block Grant Program for 2016. We publish a notification of the hearing in the paper. Macomb County does a bigger notice in the paper for all the communities where it administers the program. That's how we get the nonprofit applications that you have in the board, that you got emailed to you. So tonight we need to open our public hearing, open the floor for individuals to comment about how we should spend this money. Residents and people that come to the podium are asked, we have on-deck chairs, just so we know if you're gonna get up and speak, they're up here. Everyone has 3 minutes to talk, so at this time, we'd be looking for a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing at 7:10 PM.
Motion by Mr. Tominello,
Support.
supported by Mr. Caprow. To open the public hearing at 7:10 PM, a roll call. Mr. Tominello,
Yes.
Mr. Caprow,
Yes.
Mr. Batanti,
Yes.
Mr. Brado,
Yes.
Mr. York is excused, Mr. Witt, yes, Mr. Verkest is excused. So we have the public hearing open, and invite anyone forward to comment on block grant.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ruth DiCarlo. I'm a resident advocate in Turning Point Shelter, and I also work on the crisis line. I am here as a representative for our shelter program tonight to request $3,000 in community block grant money to assist in the provision of shelter services for abused and homeless adults and children from Harrison Township. In 2015, we provided services to 59 residents from Harrison Township, 3 adults and 2 children in shelter, and 44 adults and 10 children in our outreach programs. CDBG funds will be used directly and only to provide support services for adults and children who are residents of Harrison Township and who are homeless due to violence. For 35 years, our shelter has offered a comprehensive array of services designed to support survivors of violence and to assist them in securing the resources needed to make a fresh start. The services include system advocacy, 24-hour crisis intervention, support groups, medical support, skills building, employment and housing search, as well as case management. We are particularly proud of the shelter's comprehensive children's program, which provides emotional support, education, safety planning, childcare, and recreation for young people in shelter from birth to 17 years. Our residents are provided 3 meals daily, personal need items, including clothing from our secondhand store, 24-hour staff availability, children's programs, including a very successful summer camp program, access to our counseling and therapy programs, court advocacy, and civil legal assistance. Per the federal guidelines for community development block grant and per the priorities of housing, homelessness, and community development projects, our program responds to the national objectives of benefiting low and moderate income persons and responding to other community development needs that have a particular urgency. Instead of asking for funding support, I would rather be here to inform you that there is no longer violence in the homes of Harrison Township and Macomb County. Turning Point's 24-hour crisis line and the fact that our shelter is full most of the time demonstrates there is still violence, which leads to homelessness and that our services are greatly needed. Turning Point's commitment to ending domestic and sexual violence cannot happen without the support of our community. Please help us to maintain this crucial support and continuing the grant block funding. Thank you for this opportunity and your consideration in providing part of the solution for our community response to domestic violence.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I do have put some brochures over there if anybody would like.
Hello, my name is Heather Solomon, and I am from Care House here in Mount Clemens. I'm a forensic interviewer there, which means I interview children who have been either sexually abused, severe physically abused, or have been witnesses to violence. Care House is a child advocacy center which hosts the interview when there's criminal investigations. We also work with a multidisciplinary team, which includes law enforcement, protective services, foster care, and other professionals that may have, may be assisting in those cases. Our services that we provide, along with the interview, are also, we provide counseling, individual support, group support, and also support when a child may have to go to court. All of our services are no cost to the family. Since 2016, which, 2016 marks our 20th anniversary of providing services to Macomb County. Since our doors opened in '96, we've provided services to over 5,300 children, with 115 of those residing in Harrison Township. In 2015, we provided interview and family services to 860 new child victims of abuse and their families, 9 of which reside in Harrison Township. So far in 2016, we have provided services to 63 new child victims of abuse and their families, 2 of which reside in Harrison Township. We also work closely with detectives such as Scott Cherwinski, Dave Crabtree, Mark Gramatico, Tony Petrikowski, Kelly Simmons, and Renee Yax. We respectfully request your consideration for funding for this 2016-2017 year in the amount of $2,400, which will support services for 4 child victims and their families that reside in Harrison Township. And we want to thank you for your support in past years. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sue Van Pamel. I am part of the administrative staff at Macomb Community Action's Office of Senior Services. My office oversees the Senior Chore Services Program, and if you're not familiar with that, that is where we do chores such as snow removal, lawn maintenance, and minor home repair for seniors living in your community. I'm sure that all of us have had a family member that found it difficult as they age to do many household chores that once seemed so routine. Think of how those once routine activities for your family member become more difficult as they age, and then when various ailments such as dementia, arthritis, or cancer become present. There is now an extra burden placed on your family member dealing with the pain, indignity, and loss of independence that accompanies many of these diseases, as well as the aging process, while living on only, say, maybe $1,500 or even $750 a month. These are the people that the Macomb County Senior Services Chore Program assists. We keep low to moderate income seniors in their home, living in dignity and independence. And now how do we do this? We do this by providing the basic physical chores that most homeowners take for granted. Services like lawn cutting and edging of their lawn, snow removal. We clean gutters once through the year. We do minor home repairs such as anything from air conditioning placement, faucets leaking, toilets leaking, minor electrical and plumbing jobs, door lock repair, anything that keeps them safely in their home. We don't go in and hang a picture for them or things like that. It's what, for the home maintenance, to keep them to be able to be living independently in their home. These chore activities that we call them not only benefit the older adult, but they benefit the surrounding communities. Neighborhood blight is kept at bay, and the residents remain in compliance with the township's property maintenance codes. By keeping the senior in the home through a variety of our services that we provide, home vacancies are deterred from occurring when a senior is placed in an alternate care setting such as a nursing home, while the family then determines to keep the home unoccupied as an asset. You know, that's when the house doesn't get maintained as much. These two benefits alone go a long way to help preserve existing family neighborhoods. In the last fiscal year of 2014 and 15, our program provided only 8 Harrison Townships low to moderate older adults over the age of 60 with our chore program. Lawn maintenance took up most of that, about 82% of what we serviced them with. The total expenses for those services was a little over $2,000. Year-to-date in this current fiscal year that we started in October, even though I know your fiscal years go different for CDBG funding, we have 9 Harrison Township seniors that are on our program. The Office of Senior Services requested $2,500 for Harrison Township's CDBG program in the Macomb County CDBG application, which then would be levied with supporting funds from state and federal dollars, as well as Macomb County government, to fulfill 2 of the 3 national CDBG policy objectives. And those objectives are directly benefit low to moderate income households and to eliminate slums and blight. So the ultimate goal is to continue to serve low to moderate income older adults so they can remain living independently and safely within their Harrison Township homes. So on behalf of the Office of Senior Services, your CDBG support is greatly appreciated. I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Goodrich, and I'm the Executive Director of the Macomb County Warming Center Shelter Program. And we have 23 churches that shelter and feed homeless people, starting in November and going through the month of April each year. This is after starting 15 years ago with 7 weeks, and so we're growing, and we hope to continue growing to a point. However, one of our happiest occasions was when we looked at the fact that we had housed, of our shelter people, just December and January so far, totally permanently housed 10 of our residents in our shelter, and we have several more in the works right now. And we're really proud of our caseworkers for working very, very hard with landlords, with some Section 8 people, and just a lot of, it takes a lot of people and a lot of organizations to make that happen, but we do a lot of that, and we nominate our people. We have we have 5 churches. Your proximity to Mount Clemens, first of all, we don't know exactly where our guests came from originally. It's really hard. A lot of them give a shelter address. Many of them give our address, or McRest, or Matt's, because that's the last place they stayed. Some of them come from out of state. We have about 10 or 12, I think it is right now, that gave 48045 as their last address. But I can almost guarantee you that being so close to Mount Clemens, that if we didn't have them at night, they could be on your streets. And we really work very hard, especially with hospitals and the police. And the Sheriff's Department particularly brings people every week that they find on the streets to our shelter. So that goes a long way toward helping the people not to freeze to death, not to, get any more ill than they have to be, but to also to make sure that the neighborhoods are as safe and quiet as possible. We also have again, we have I think we brought them last year, but I didn't bring them tonight. We have laminated cards that we give to convenience stores and gas stations and police and hospitals. And they have on one side our shelter locations, and the other side has areas in Macomb County that serve meals and have clothing closets and things that the homeless can use. And we, whenever possible, we try to give out some bus tickets so they can get to these places. Again, being able to have meals and having places to go rather than on the street. We see the people, and God bless McRest and Matt's, I love them, but they cannot accommodate everyone because of their funding rules. We take everybody that's left on the streets if they can find us. I think my time is up. Thank you very much. I have any questions?
how much was the, I guess I missed the funding. How much was the funding that you were requesting?
$2,000, yes. And thank you for your past support, by the way.
Sure.
Hello, my name's Dan Hutchins. I'm the director of the Harrison Township Public Library. For 2016, the library is budgeted to launch a library materials delivery via U.S. mail program for the elderly and infirm who are unable to leave their residences. In addition, the library would like to establish several small satellite collections of large type books for use by the patrons of the Harrison Township Senior Center and residents of AHEPA 1 and 2 apartments. The library has not budgeted for the purchase of large type materials to be used in these satellite collections. If approved, the library would utilize existing staff and volunteers to deliver and tend the satellite collections. Community block grant funds would be used to purchase the large type books for the satellite collections, which on average cost $30 each. So we're asking for $3,000, which is about 100 large type books, 2 small collections, 1 at each location. The library's small collection of large type books primarily serves senior citizens with low vision or vision impairments. For Harrison Township senior population, the need for stimulating books is important, as reading engages and challenges the mind. Additional funding for materials needed for seniors with low vision would allow the library to offer items at off-site locations where seniors live and spend time. Harrison Township is home to approximately 3,400 people aged 65 years and older. The Harrison Township Public Library has approximately 800 Harrison Township seniors as registered borrowers. Approximately 160 seniors live at AHEPA complexes and 350 visit the senior center weekly. The proposed satellite collection would help the library to extend its current outreach to seniors who may not be able to visit the library themselves. Was there any questions?
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments for the public hearing?
Jim Senstock, 31698 San Juan. Actually, I'm one of your seniors. I didn't know there was that many. I have a concern with at least the one for the library. The library basically taxes us already. At least they passed the millage. And it seems to me that at least they should be using those library funds to support the seniors if that's what they so choose to do, and buy the large print books and so on, but not come to us for the CGDB funds. As far as the other CDBG funds, again, I believe you're also going to be discussing the senior center and finishing that off or completing it or whatever. And as a resident of Harrison Township and a taxpayer, I expect you to do what it takes to finish off the senior center first and foremost before you give it to anybody else. If I choose to give money to any one of these groups, and many of them are very good groups, in fact, I do give money through our association to a couple of them, through our homeowners association, but for you guys to impose your will and give that money away to somebody who I might not agree with is wrong. Take care of Harrison first. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, be looking for a motion to close the public hearing for community development block grants at 7:30 p.m.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Tominello, supported by Mr. Batanti, to close the public hearing at 7:30 p.m. Roll call. Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Batanti?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Capral?
Yes.
Mr. York is excused. Mr. Witt, yes. Mr. Verkes is excused. In going over this, just last year, the board allocated roughly $225,000 towards the expansion of the senior center. It'll basically double the square footage of the area. We're still in the process of bidding that project out. That should be going out within the next 2-3 weeks. And as we've worked with the engineer, we've done it with the understanding that we are going to design the project so that certain portions of it can be separated out from the initial scope of work, so that we can continue to fund it with block grant funds. So we limit the impact with any other outside funds, whether it's general fund or excess grant funding. Of our $73,000 allocation from Macomb County, we have $56,677 available for a bricks and mortar project. We also have $16,393 available for public service programs. That's what you heard from the individuals that were here. That would fall under the public service program allocation. The one representative from the CHORE program, the county actually takes that money right off the top and puts that funding towards the CHORE program, because that's one of the county's programs that they fund. So they take our allocation for that. And I want to say it was $2,500 that goes right off the top from our money to that. We don't have a choice in that. The county makes that decision for us. So we have $16,393 remaining for public service programs. It would be my recommendation that this money be completely allocated towards the Dial-A-Ride shuttle program. Any decrease in the allocation that we make from the block grant program results in a direct increase in the amount of general fund money that goes in to cover the expenses of that program. So while these are great organizations, and I know, I think we can all say that these are great organizations that serve the public well and meet a lot of needs that aren't met any other way, what we would end up doing is making a donation with general fund dollars. My recommendation would be to allocate the $56,677 to the senior center expansion project, and to allocate the $16,393 public service money to the Dial-A-Ride program.
I'll go ahead and make that motion to allocate $16,393 to the Dial-A-Ride program and $56,677 to the senior expansion from our 2016 CDBG funds.
We have a motion by Mr. Capral. Is there support?
Support.
Is there any discussion, board members? Hearing none, open the floor for public comment.
William Bardell, 19-year resident. Good work, fellas.
So seeing no other public comment, we'll return to the board. Is there any further discussion at the board? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Capral, seconded by Mr. Bato.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Could I ask a question?
Nope, no problem.
We, just want to clarify, last year, if I recall, we did give money to these organizations, correct?
Yeah, last year was unique,
Okay.
because we had gone from, I still wasn't in favor of what the board chose, but that was what the board said. We had a 3-year allocation, so we had more funding
Okay,
available. So we had roughly 3 times this amount coming in from the block grant, because we didn't receive any money in 2014 and 2013. We received it all
okay,
in 15, so. I know we've had a past of going back and forth, but in essence, what it does is just change that money from the general fund into,
right.
a bus expense, so. Is there any other board comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. And thank you for everyone that applied. And the next item on our agenda is also related to the Community Development Block Grant Program. The federal government has added a new requirement of the program, and it requires that any professional services that you utilize, such as engineering firm that helps administer the CDBG projects, is required to be bid out at least every 3 years. Excuse me. Attached before you have a draft request for quotations for professional engineering services that was distributed by Macomb County. And so I'm asking for you, before we go out and start any of these projects, we would need to solicit quotes from firms for solely the purpose of overseeing our CDBG projects. This would be separate from any of the other professional engineering services that we have. And we would bring a recommendation back to the board prior to final selection, for final selection after a bid opening.
Motion to authorize the clerk to solicit quotations from engineering firms to oversee our CDBG projects with the recommendation to be brought back to the board after bid opening for final selection.
A motion by Mr. Tominello, is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Capel. Is there any board discussion, questions?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
I know it's a draft letter, but the qualified civil engineering firms, is it just a qualified civil what does that mean by qualified? Does that mean they have to be CDBG certified, or is that just a qualified civil engineering company?
Just a qualified civil engineering company. There are some other requirements, I believe, through their, we'll have to go through the county's procurement process because it's, the federal government lays out how you have to do this. There's certain,
I'm just hoping that
there's minority women-owned company things. You have to make sure you contact them, and I believe this falls under those requirements, but.
but it doesn't strictly limit.
No. I know some communities that have gone out and, ultimately the decision's the board's, so we can choose the company that suits our needs best, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Tominello, supported by Mr. Capel, to authorize the clerk to solicit quotations from engineering firms to oversee our CDBG projects, with a recommendation to be brought back to the board after the bid opening for final selection. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, we'll open the floor for general public comments.
I'm Paul Schluto, live at 36150 Edmund Harrison Township. Going under the assumption that nobody here reads the Macomb Daily, watches ABC, CBS, CNN, MSN, or anything else that relates to news media. Because we've been on it about Edmund Street with the fallout that we've had. We've had no one from this township and any elected official attempt to contact anybody regarding that. Nobody came out, nobody made a phone call. That also includes, with an exception of Anthony, anybody in politics. You always want us to vote for you. What are you gonna do? When are you gonna show up? DEQ come out to take samples. A week, at the earliest. How do you know that's hazard material? I don't know. What happens if a dog eats it or a pet dies? What happens if a kid gets into it? Fire department's been out. According to the health department, they're the first ones on the scene. They're supposed to clean it up. Fire department says, no, that's not our job. EAP says, well, we'll send it over. DEQ comes out. Because DEQ's involved in it, health department can't do anything about it. There's dead birds laying there. I don't understand why nobody even saw it. You didn't see the news? Didn't see it. Didn't see it in the paper. Didn't watch television. I just find that totally amazing. Well, think about that when you run for office again. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Matt Sar, Harrison Township Firefighters, Local 1737 President. As you've already stated, March 8th is the election for public safety. Local 1737 believes the township has done its due diligence by putting together a blue ribbon panel to study the township's fire service. A report was submitted and unanimously supported by the citizen-driven panel to move the minimum staffing to 8 firemen and outsource dispatch. Passing this millage is a good first step in achieving that goal. The fire department is busier than ever. Already, we have been on 2 second alarms, used mutual aid over a dozen times. We've used that mutual aid over a dozen times on medical emergencies because we've had no units available. And just last week, a serious PI tied up all of the township fire department resources. Since Public Act 269, that is commonly known as the gag bill for public officials, has been put on hold, my members think it's important for the public to hear where their elected officials stand on the public safety millage. I've had personal conversations with almost every single board member, whether it be through email or phone calls, and I appreciate that, and we've received support. And the one person that I will speak on is Supervisor Ken Verkest. He has told me that he supports it, and since he's not here tonight, I will go ahead and say that publicly. But I think it's important when you guys have your board comments to speak to this and let the residents know where you stand on it and how important it is. Thank you.
William Bardell, 19-year resident, new kid on the block. I got this little flyer from the union. I'm a union man myself. The union's job is not to put the township out of business. The union's job is not to put the factory out of business. The union's job is to work with the township, work with the factory and the plant managers. Yes, we have had an 18.6 reduction in our values, our real estate values. But this great recession that we had because of the deregulated swaps and derivatives market, we lost 1/5 of our income. We already lost 1/5 of our income. I think this fire board should have included bean counters, volunteer firemen, ex-Marines, ex-Navy, ex-Army volunteers, James Semstock, engineers, and half firefighters. Half and half. Half firefighters, 1/4 bean counters, 1/8 engineers, and 1/8 volunteer firemen and Marines, Navy, Air Force, and Army volunteers who are willing to go backwards and volunteer for our wonderful fire department. If we would have had choices that say, okay, 25 men, we've done it with 25 men for 5 years, and made the effort to make it look like at least that we're cutting back, or we're trying to make it give us the illusion that we're saving money. We've known this crisis was going on for 5 years or more. We had a intelligent, smart man that wanted to be on this committee that was told to sit out and be quiet and shut up and mind your own business and sit in the back and keep your trap shut. Why this committee did not pick his brain, why they didn't get quotes from MedStar, I have no idea on God's green earth. Any savvy plant manager of any plant or any municipality that has a sales critter come in and wants to sell you a new robot, it's up to you to listen to their spiel, listen to the sales pitch. If you got a furniture plant, you got a new glue machine, a new fixture, you listen to their spiel. There's new ways of doing things to save money. We've known about this problem for years. Any equipment they want, they get. They get the jaws of life. Whatever they want, they get. We done it with 25, let's do it with 25. You got an emergency, call the other departments. Call them early, get them out there. We got people chomping at the bit wanting to be volunteer firemen. These are good jobs, good benefits. The recession, it's only been good for a year. Bring this back in a couple years, we'll think about it. We just got out of this recession, and also I'd like to remind everybody to check out SaveLakeSt. Clair.org and Facebook Save Lake St. Clair. They disassembled the Water Quality Board in Harrison, or in the Macomb County Water Quality Board, and there's no real-time validation that the water is being partially treated at our wastewater sewage plants. I'll have the numbers for you next week or our next meeting, but I say vote no on this millage because I don't like the way it was done. I think you should have at least had half non-firemen on that committee. And you should have had James Semstock on that committee. Thank you.
Jim Sunstock, 31698 San Juan. Before I get started on the fire millage, I'd like to discuss briefly what happened over there on Edmund Street. The gentleman's right. Nobody here came out there. Nobody took the time to get involved. Your supervisor was telling everybody that he was at a meeting on Tuesday morning while he was on his way to Daytona Beach for another vacation, which I might add is probably the third or fourth one he's had in the last year. Rome is burning. You guys are fiddling. All of you. These people are over there, they're asking, they talk to everybody. And everybody pushed them around just like they did up in Flint. Oh, well, call the DEQ. Yo, call the health department. Oh, call the fire department. Nobody wanted to step forward and say what it was. And nobody has yet. And you guys haven't even stepped forward and said, I want you to take care of our residents because I work for them. Not a single one of you. What's the matter? Too busy? Oh, wait, you don't live in that neighborhood. You live in the high rent districts. You don't have to worry about that. Well, you do. If that turns out to be that stuff is poisonous, there's little kids that are involved, animals that are involved, residents that are involved, wild animals that are involved, and not a single one of you took any time to find out what was going on or to put the pressure on our higher representatives like Candace or Mr. Forlini or some of the others. Shame on you. Now, I don't want to use too much of my time up because I want to talk about the fire millage. The fire committee, the Blue Ribbon Committee, we'll call it that wasn't what it was called, was composed of almost all pro-fire department people. I did offer to be on the committee, but as a matter of fact, I went to every committee meeting anyhow. So I saw what was going on. When you guys set it up, when Mr. Verkest set it up, he said, we are going to look at how the fire department is operated. And we were in the midst of hiring that employee to be a secretary, and we'll even look at that. And we might even lay her off. That's what you guys said. It was not brought up one time, not once in that meeting. The first words out of one of the people that was there was, let's just put this on the ballot and we'll force an issue, and if they don't vote for it, they won't have a fire department. That's the lawyer from Macomb County that did that. A lawyer from Macomb County is on our fire department committee. Well, he was there because of one thing. He was there because he was a yes vote. As far as the actual proposal, what you're proposing is a 13.3% increase over our current, or what we most currently had as a millage. In reality, though, it's a 20.7% increase because there's already a $500,000 included in there that was supposed to have never been used in the third year. It was only going to be used if we needed it, and it was only going to be in the first year, so vote for the $500,000 and we'll probably won't use it. In fact, one of the gentlemen, he's not here now, but one of the former firefighters that sat on this board got really, really antagonistic with Mr. York when he said that's baloney. You guys are going to use it all. He became aggressive and assaultive acting. Guess what? Darren was right. So we got a 20.7% increase. And then I see the articles and I see the flyer here. Wow, geez, if you're going to put something on a flyer, have a kid sit next to a firefighter. Good idea. Looks great. The fact of the matter is, in a news article in Macomb Daily, one of the quotes was, Harrison Township has put off adding additional resources due to the economy, such as a ladder truck, a command vehicle, as well as improvements to Station 1 on Crocker. Station 1 on Crocker has been improved. We have a ladder truck. We don't need another one, and we have command vehicles. It's all puff. It's all fluff. It's try to pull the wool over the residents' eyes. Any resident that wants to talk to me, and I'll show them the numbers, the backup, whatever. My number is 463-9150. I'm not lying. Vote no on this fire department millage. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comments, we will come back to board comments. Just to to give the resident an update as well as the board members an update as to the issue on Edmund Street. I don't know if anyone, I've driven through the neighborhood in the time frame. I might not have knocked on your door, but I know I've been out there. I've spoken with the fire department the last several days last week, just to make sure that we were making the proper response on our side. I know our public services director was out in the field the entire day on Thursday, looking for possible sources, whether it was a burn barrel. He walked the entire length of the spillway, walked through those backwoods where we have a water main and a sewer main that travels, walked up and down Ballard, walked up and down Campow Lane, went through St. John North Shore, climbed up to the roof because they're replacing the roof there to make sure that wasn't the source of the material. Went up and down the next doors because there was snow on the ground to see if there were any other locations to possibly try and track a source. Because in speaking with the fire department, the difficulty in making a response to this type of thing is knowing the material. And when you do go out and clean it up, if you don't know the source, the residents are the ones that often bear the cost. Not that saying that that's what happened. It's better when you can identify where that source came from, so when we have the cleanup that occurs, we can make sure that the proper party is billed for those costs, whether it's through litigation or criminal proceedings. The fire department, in speaking with the fire chief and one of the battalion chiefs, has been in contact with Macomb County Emergency Management, the health department, as well as the DEQ in Selfridge. I know originally the DEQ had stated that there was an extended time period for the testing. In our conversations with the county, we worked with them saying that there was a more of a pressing need to get this testing done quickly. The DEQ has said that they would expedite their testing. We hope to know something back shortly. That testing will then allow us to effectuate an accurate response to the material, whatever's necessary, based on the material. You don't want to go in and say it's one thing and the response to that is flush it down the drain, and you really find out it's something else, and that's the worst thing you can do for it, is spray it with water. So there hasn't been no response, but I understand the frustration and that it takes time. Our initial reaction when the DEQ said it's going to take up to 2 weeks was frustration. So I truly understand and I empathize. And again, I know we've had multiple employees, and I know myself, I've driven through the neighborhood to try and get an idea as to what was going on. We might not have knocked on your door, but we've been out there, we're working on it. This isn't something that has escaped anybody in the office's attention. So, and feel free to call me anytime, and I'll give you an update, and we'll make sure
The
we,
area that it covers is approximately 150 feet wide by 500 to 600 feet long. It
Um,
came from the air, everybody agreed that was, everything on it hit the horizontal. There is absolutely nothing on anything vertical. Now, if this was somebody else's house in a better area, I bet you they'd be out there real fast, wouldn't they?
Yeah, if it's your neighborhood, you probably be out there real quick.
again, if there's any other.
Nobody made a phone call. Nobody came out. You can say all you wanted to say, I'm retired, I'm home, he's home. Our other neighbors aren't here right now. The fire department came out twice. Once on the initial call that I was advised by Selfridge Field to call Harrison Township Fire Department. I did. Matter of fact, I stopped at the office on Crocker, told them what was going on. They sent, a battalion chief out on it. Took his pencil, goes, I don't think it's hazardous. Called DEQ.
You know,
They
it's,
finally came out Wednesday.
sir, we can talk about it again. Thank you.
Mr. Witt, just to comment about follow-up. As soon as I did learn about the story, I called Mr. Burkess to try to understand what was going on. And based on what he had indicated, I'm not suggesting that it's moved fast enough or that it's gone in the right direction, but it seemed that, from my perspective, that Selfridge was involved, that the DEQ was involved, our fire department was involved. So just to address one of the issues about whether anybody did learn about it and did make inquiries, I can say that I did.
Nobody contacted the neighborhood. Boy, well, how much do you think that would have cost? A nickel to make a phone call?
Any other board comments?
Yeah, I'd make a comment about a little bit about the millage. I served on the Fire Service Assessment Board, and I think that one thing that it's important for our residents to understand is that prior to asking for this millage, the board did go through the process of looking at expenses. I think that the residents should remember that retiree healthcare expenses were addressed and reduced, both in fire, that come out of the fire budget and from the general budget, that we've also worked on expenses through the contract negotiation and binding arbitration. There were 2 positions that were not filled as they were vacated, so this is not simply a matter of the township looking for additional expense without looking at the costs, because those costs have been looked at. The Fire Assessment Committee was made up of a variety of individuals, fire experts, individuals from SEMCOG, and from the general public. And I believe that that assessment, along with the work that was done on expenses, is what leads us to the millage as it exists today. And I think that that is a fair request at this point in time for our residents to evaluate.
Thank you. Any further board comments?
Well, it's been pretty clear to me that the firefighters have been working pretty closely with the township, maybe not always on a less than adversarial side. I mean, they've been fighting for their jobs, they've been fighting for their contract, which is what they should do. But they have been working with the township, trying to reduce costs. We have not spent a tremendous amount of money. We have not bought a lot of equipment. We've been scaling back, if anything. I know that they need more equipment, and I don't believe that we can cut staffing anymore. I mean, based on what I see in working closely with Matt and the other guys, I just don't see how it's possible. But the budget is what it is. We cannot continue to fund a fire department. I believe it's going to take 9 years to get to where we were. And we can't continue to do that as costs go up. I mean, costs go up. We don't ride horses to work anymore. We all have expenses and we all have real bills to pay. And these expenses, like it or not, go up every year. And that's why I've been in support of the millage. And my wife and I don't want to pay more money than we have to either. But we look at the township and the services that we provide and the level of quality of service that we are provided by the firefighters. And I really believe that they do an excellent job for the residents, and I don't think that they're wasting money. I mean, the station on Crocker needs a lot of work, and we all know that. And we've been putting Band-Aids on that building for years. So I believe that it's a fair millage. I don't think that it's outlandish by any means. So I definitely am in support of it.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo the sentiments of the other two trustees as far as the public safety millage. We did sit through some of the meetings, and we digested most of the information. We understand where we're at, and we think it's a fair millage for the people to vote on.
Any other board comment? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Batanti. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Brado. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.